In this video, I'm going to discuss deducting meals as a business expense. You might be thinking, Navi, I got this covered. What more do I need to learn? But over the years, I found so many business owners get this wrong, and I just want to clear up some things by answering a few questions. So, number one, why the IRS even allows business owners to deduct meals. I think if you understand this concept, it will eliminate a lot of your questions about why is a meal deductible or not. What meals are not deductible at all, what meals are 50% deductible, and what meals are 100% deductible. I'm going to answer that. And yes, you can still deduct certain meals 100% in 2023 and beyond. What you should do in your bookkeeping software to keep track of this. For example, some bookkeeping software has a generic meals and entertainment account. I'll explain why you want to have an entertainment account, a 50% deductible meals account, and a 100% deductible meals account. What do you need to do for record keeping? Is having a receipt good enough? What to avoid when deducting meals as a business expense? What is ordinary and necessary as it relates to deducting meals for business? This is different for each business, so I'm going to provide some examples for you. And then I'll wrap things up by giving you some tips and tricks such as how to deduct meals for your spouse, what to do if you split the bill with someone, and a couple other helpful items, so make sure you watch till the end or you'll miss those important ones. So, okay, before we dive in, let me quickly introduce myself if it's your first time here. My name is Navi Miraj, and I'm a CPA that helps entrepreneurs save thousands of dollars in taxes. I do that by creating free content here on social media, but I also do that through a course which is designed to take you from knowing nothing about taxes and transform you into an entrepreneur who implements tax strategies that will save you thousands of dollars in taxes. You may be thinking, that's not possible. But you can do this on your own. You just need someone who explains taxes and strategies in a simple, easy to understand manner. So if you want to check those out, visit my website. It's navimuradcpa.com. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's talk about why the IRS would even want to give us a deduction for business meals. Well, let's think about it like this. Everyone has to eat, right? So why are you able to deduct anything at all if everyone has to eat? Well, here's the IRS's thought process with this. Think about it this way. If you have the mindset that a conversation is taking place during a meal and things discussed during that meal are either going to help your business grow its revenue or perhaps reduce expenses, then that will be one way, right, to actually have more profit in your business. And that's more profit, then therefore the IRS will be able to charge you more tax, okay? So if you think about it from this perspective, it kind of makes sense as to why the IRS is willing to give you this meals deduction, okay? Hopefully that makes sense, all right? Keep that in mind as we go through some of the examples, and I think it'll just clear up your understanding with why you're able to deduct certain things and why you're not able to deduct others. Let's now talk about how much you can deduct. I mentioned that there are some meals that are not deductible at all, 50% deductible, and then 100% deductible. Meals that are not deductible at all are when you're having a meal by yourself and you're not traveling for business. That's an important factor to keep in mind here. So if you're just busy throughout the day and you need to grab lunch or a meal, that's not something you can pull out the business credit card for and swipe it with, okay? That means, you can't go to Starbucks, get a coffee, and deduct it as a meals expense if you're by yourself at least. Also, if you're doing some sort of entertainment, like going to a ball game and you buy some sort of package that includes meals, those meals won't be deductible unless they are separately listed on the invoice or billed totally separate. So watch out for that. That is a scenario where you can't deduct 100% of those meals, 50% of those meals, or any of those meals because the item is not separately listed and all of it will be considered entertainment. Okay, so the next category is 50% deductible. And so most business meals fall under this category. This would be having a business conversation with an employee, a vendor, a client, a prospect even, maybe even a contractor. Any conversation that you have that's business related and there's a meal taking place during that conversation, well, that meal is now 50% deductible. Dining by yourself while traveling is 50% deductible as well. You caught the difference there from what I said earlier, right? Dining by yourself when not traveling, 0% deductible. Dining by yourself while away on business, 50% deductible. Okay, other items that are 50% deductible, office snacks, coffee, water for your employees, those are 50% deductible. office food for your employees. So if you're order food for employees because of overtime, or you're doing some sort of lunch and learn event, or perhaps just to boost employee morale, these meals are 50% deductible. So what about 100% deductible meals? What do those meals come into play, right? We want to get those. So when you're having a meal for all your employees, this is, probably when you have quite a few employees and you're having this meal as like a social activity. This could be like take for example, a holiday party or a summer picnic. All the employees are getting treated to a meal, and therefore you can deduct 100% of that meal. You got to be careful though. If the people in attendance ends up being less than 50% employees, then it reverts back to a 50% deductible meal. And that can happen if your employees invite their spouse and kids. So just be mindful out there that that rule does exist. Another example of a 100% deductible business meal is when you're offering it to the public free of charge for a promotional or an advertising campaign. Okay, so that's enough about, 0%, 50%, 100%. Let's now get into those other topics. So let's talk bookkeeping for a moment. Be careful of how this is being tracked in your accounting software. You should not use the default account that comes in QuickBooks called Meals and Entertainment. Why? Because, take it from me, when your tax professional gets your books and sees an account called Meals and Entertainment with a $5,000 balance, they have no clue what to do with it. How much of this was entertainment? How much of it was 50% deductible? How much was 100% deductible? Your CPA doesn't know. So think about this for a moment. How many of you currently have one meals and entertainment account for all of this stuff that I mentioned before, right? Now ask yourself, how many of you, got an email from your tax professional asking you, hey, what does this account consist of? If the answer is 0 times, well, chances are you got $0 in tax deductions because your tax professional didn't want to ask you, what's the difference between all these different things, okay? A quick note I want to mention while on this topic of entertainment is that a couple years back, everyone used to talk about meals and entertainment together. It was like, hey, you couldn't say entertainment without saying meals and vice versa. Well, entertainment is no longer deductible. That happened a couple of years ago with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, but meals separately invoiced would be. I mentioned that earlier. So let me give you an example of that. The common example is going to a sporting event. You paid for the tickets for a client or prospect or whoever you're taking out. You're there with them at the event, and then you want to go ahead and purchase food and beverages and whatever else you want to purchase. Well, if you're invoiced separately for those meals and beverages, or there's a separate line item for meals and beverages on your receipt, then you can deduct the meals and beverage portion, but not the entertainment portion of that invoice or receipt. All right, so let's talk about record keeping next. This is really simple, but people overcomplicate it. After you have that business meal and you're taking care of the bill, on your receipt, just write the name, what the business discussion was. Take a picture of that receipt. And what this is going to do is it's going to accomplish a few things. Obviously, you're going to have the name and the business discussion summary on there, but also you'll have the date on there, and you'll have the vendor on there that you had the meal at, and the amount will also be there as well. So you'll have everything you need in the event you ever have to go through an audit. Personally, I just snap the photo and save it to the cloud and then pray I never get audited. Okay, next up is let's talk about what not to do when trying to deduct your meals. Don't be lavish or extravagant with your meal. You can't go out and have a $200 meal and expect the IRS to deduct $100 of that. That's just not going to fly. Or is it? Well, the IRS lets you deduct expenses that are ordinary and necessary for your business. So if you're a famous social media influencer who goes around to 5-star restaurants and discusses their most expensive dish, then maybe you can deduct a $500 meal. Maybe that's ordinary and necessary for your business, right? But if you're just, a CPA out there giving away free tax strategies on social media and nobody subscribes to your channel because over 80% of the people who watch your channel are not subscribed, well then deducting a $50 meal might be more realistic for you. Okay, so that reminds me though, if you do get value out of this video, if you learn something or you have a question, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and ask me a question in the comments below. Okay, so now let's move on with the things you should not be doing. You as a taxpayer or one of your employees need to be present at the meal. You can't tell a client, order what you want at this restaurant, I'm going to take care of the bill and deduct that as a meal expense. That's not going to work. I hinted at this earlier. Here's another thing. But you don't deduct meals by yourself unless you're traveling for business, specifically like out of town traveling for business, not just traveling to a different county and then driving back the same day. The meals that you deduct or that you have while you're out of town on business are 50% deductible, and those are allowed. But you can't go through the Chick-fil-A drive-thru, grab a spicy chicken sandwich, and then deduct that as a meal expense if you're not traveling for business. Taxes and tips are part of the meal expense as well and are included as part of the 50% deductible bill. So I'm saying the taxes on that meal and the tip that you leave, the gratuity that you leave, that is actually 50% tax deductible. You can also use the meals deduction even when you split the bill. So if you're out with a vendor and your vendor has a good relationship with you and you then pay half of their bill and they pay for their half, you can deduct the amount that you pay for, okay? That amount that's billed to you is still 50% deductible. Don't think, oh, you split the meal in half and you're only paying for your portion, so it can't be deductible. No, you can still deduct that. And remember, you can deduct meals with employees, and those employees can be your spouse. The thing is, again, you have to be reasonable with this, and your spouse should be on payroll, or if not on payroll, they should be part of your board of advisors. They should be actually working in the business or contributing to the business in some other fashion. So be careful not to take advantage of this. This shouldn't be every lunch because your spouse happens to be on payroll, so you decide to deduct it. This should be an occasional thing. You can't have a date night, not talk about business at all, and then swipe that business credit card. All right. So, hey, that was a lot. Thanks for watching. I think that about sums things up. Remember, if you got value out of this video, please do subscribe, because in my future videos, you'll be learning more about different tax topics, which can save you thousands of dollars in taxes. So with that said, I hope to see you either in the next video or in the course.